Okay, so we practiced up through Thursday, as I told you guys, shared with you. Gave him Friday, Saturday, and most of Sunday off. Practice last night, and then obviously a day off today, and back at it tomorrow. So need a great week of practice. Playing a good football team on the road. Our guys, I can tell they're excited about the challenge this week. So coach has got to put together good plans, finish them up here in the next day or so, and get some good reps in, and get down there to Waco. We got a 2:30 kick. College football when it's supposed to be played, so it should have a great environment. Looking forward to the game.
Did you do anything in these 2 weeks that you wouldn't really have time to do in 1 week of preparation?
We worked the young guys last week, which I shared with you, and then continued to try to improve on just our base in all three phases, and then started on Baylor a little bit on Thursday, and then obviously we'll be into Baylor tomorrow.
Being that this was the first time they've had this much time off during the season this year, how was the response last night when you got them back?
I thought it was really good. They lifted yesterday and then came back and practiced well. And this group is pretty focused and committed to each other. I feel good about the chemistry amongst the guys and the leadership we have. So that plays a role in the question you just asked.
Do you have a better idea by this point in the season, or a good idea of what the kind of the identity of the team in those settings, practice settings and video, film, whatever?
I think they're focused. I think it's important to them. I think they care about each other. We'll know a lot more about ourselves as a team in a month. You know, we're getting ready to get into the meat of it, and we'll get a pretty good feel. We'll have some conference road games, some home games against good teams. So we'll know a lot more about us in a month.
How different is this Baylor team to the one you faced in Arlington last year?
There's a lot of similarities. Their concepts are the same. Not a lot of personnel changes other than they had the safety that was a really good player that's not there anymore, and a couple skilled kids on offense, but they look essentially the same scheme-wise. Quarterback's back now. Obviously, he's got more experience than when we saw him, but same group.
What's the challenge for you as a coach, with your offensive speed going up against a Baylor offense that likes to go slow?
Well, it's just two different philosophies. I guess you could say a defensive head coach and an offensive head coach maybe. They'll run the clock down and play with some tight ends and fullbacks, and they're going to run the mid-zone play, and they're going to run boots and nakeds off of it, try to get the ball out in the flat, and they're going to max protect and throw it down the field. And we spread out more and play at a much faster tempo. Some of the things are similar, but for the most part, the philosophies and how we get there are different.
How much more do you really know about their quarterback at this point, considering he had only played a couple of games when you saw him last year and has only played a few this year?
So it's, their concept offensively from an outside looking in is the same as it was in a championship game. So you're in a controlled passing game. He might complete 14 passes in the game, and it may only be for 75 yards, but 3 or 4 of them might be converting third downs. So I don't really see a lot of difference, and it looks like they've programmed him in that direction, until they play action, max protect, and try to throw it over your head.
You praised Ika, their defensive tackle, quite a bit last year. How do you feel about that matchup with your kind of new look offensive line and him going into Saturday?
Well, he's an issue. You're talking about 62? He's a problem. He should be playing on Sundays right now. So we definitely have to know where he's at on the field, because whenever he comes off the ball and goes straight that direction, whoever's in front of him is going that direction. So we have to be smart in how we handle him, but he's a good player.
What's the message to the offensive line when trying to handle him?
Block him. I'm not trying to. I told him a Sunday ago. Look, we all know they have a good team. Let's start with that. They have a good team. They're well coached. They play hard, and they have a good team. But when you're dealing with a guy like that, you have to treat him like everybody else. You just have to have some concepts with your coaches to give to the players to help them at times. You don't want to single him up a lot. You want some help on him. And really, that's what we told him. I mean, we'll give you guys help sometimes, but sometimes you're going to have to hold your own. And he's going to make some plays. You're not going to stop him from making plays. But we need to make our share of plays against him.
What is this successful? It's for the naked eye, it's kind of hard to tell what a good defensive tackle looks like. What is a successful play for him? Is it freeing up the edge rushers? What does it look like for him?
Well, so he pushes everything back into the backfield, right? He's a low center of gravity. Obviously, I'm guessing he's very strong, and his power comes from down here. So he dumps everything back in the backfield, which creates a problem for an offense. So the simple part of it is, offenses are trying to move forward, and backs making cuts beyond the line of scrimmage. And when offensive line is running in space, they're not getting anywhere, and backs are making cuts behind the line, it's not as good a play. And so it sounds really simple, and to a certain extent it is. But he does a good job of just carrying people back in the backfield. And when they double team him, he'll swallow two people and kind of sit down and eat up space. It's very, very similar to what they do in the NFL. Those big guys, they see those giant guys on the field, they're just eating up gaps. He does a good job of that.
Because of, last December you were dealing with some health issues on the line, some backups playing. Do you feel like you're in a better position maybe now?
Sure. Our guys, we have guys that are more experienced that are in there. And we're fairly healthy up front, which is good. We were beat up a little bit at that time. He started to come on kind of the middle of the year, toward the end of the year last year is when he started to come into his own. And, we caught him down there, and he's playing pretty good. Ole Miss got a dose of it in the bowl game. And so he's continued on with that. So I feel good about our guys. I mean, we can't go beyond he's a good football player. We know he's there. But we play other good football players, right? We played guys from Notre Dame that were long and tall and created issues for us and throughout the league. We would, we're not afraid to give him credit for who he is and what he gets accomplished, but I expect our guys to block him.
Mike, on the other side, I know you look at matchups like we do in the media, but there's a prize matchup. They probably have the best offensive line in the Big 12. They're pretty good. Mm-hmm. Your defensive line is probably the best defensive line in the Big 12. So you got really good on good with that matchup. Talk a little bit about, and I know they've got some schemes to combat it, quick pass, so forth, and max protect you mentioned, but that's going to be fun to watch.
Well, it's a good matchup. Again, I go back to what I said. They in my opinion, they stay in their box on what they're trying to get accomplished on offense, and they have good players. Baylor's always had good players. They're sitting right in the middle of 300 Division I offers a year within a 4-hour drive. It's a good location to get good players, and they've developed them, and they know what they want to get accomplished. And so, one thing to watch is the matchup between those two groups that you just mentioned, because they're both pretty good groups, and it should be interesting to watch and see how it plays out throughout the game.
I've heard Coach Charlie Dickey described as an old school guy. The players seem to love him. Do you feel that old school vibe off of him?
He's been around a long time and obviously raised and developed in Coach Snyder's system at Kansas State, which is tough, hard-nosed offensive line play and block. And so he has that instilled in him. He was there for a long time, and that's why we want him to be a part of our staff. So he understands the challenge that we have this week, and I'm sure is looking forward to the same thing that they're trying to get accomplished against our defensive line.
Why do you think young players can be attracted to that hard-nosed, tough coaching style?
Oh, I think young people now are attracted to people that are honest with them and know if they care about them. This generation of young people, in my opinion, can see through what I call a fraud, trying to be somebody you're not. And Charlie obviously is about as good down-to-earth person there is, and I think they probably appreciate his personality when they're coaching him.
Mike Spencer playing about like you thought he would going into this year, or has he even exceeded?
He's playing pretty good.
Yeah.
When we protect him a little bit and rush the ball some, he's a pretty good football player because he's got good skill. He understands what we're trying to accomplish. We've talked about this a number of times, but he's had a lot of experience now, so things come to him much easier than they did a couple years ago.
Do you trust him as much as you trusted any quarterback?
Yeah, we let him do whatever he wants to do. Yeah, he goes at it, has fun, and I mean, he still does some things. He's a risk taker, right? I mean, he'll run more. He takes more hits than he should. He'll throw into coverage some, but it's kind of the way it is. But we have a lot of confidence in him and let him go out and make his plays.
Iowa State really only had one receiver that I would call a real vertical threat Saturday. You got a bunch. Is that something you have to capitalize on? Because you mentioned Baylor's lost some guys on the back end of their defense that were pretty good in coverage, and your guys are pretty good at beating coverage.
Yeah, they're going to stay back. In my opinion, their safeties are going to play it, 12, 14 yards. I would guess they're going to stay back. And, I mean, his personality, from what I've learned over the last few years, is he's not like we all are, but their defense is set up to not give up big plays. They're going to force you to rush the ball and be a successful intermediate passing team, and we understand that. It's no secret. So I would say those guys are probably going to be back there pretty far and try to defend downfield throws.
One observation from watching all the football on Saturday, you've always been kind of, I know you do it by feel, but people are going for it on fourth down in situations that you'd have never thought. I mean, Texas Tech did it, K-State did it, Baylor does it. It's a fourth down craze.
I think there's more of the analytics that coaches are looking at. They're getting percentages on certain specific situations in games, and right or wrong, they're buying into that formula that is being presented to those coaches at that time. I don't know that to be true. I think that's where most of this has started. And then there's a side of it's based on who you are as an offense, and then, in my opinion, is who you're competing against. So, I mean, this is probably an exaggeration, but if it was 4th and 2 and I was going against a front like Georgia, I wouldn't really be fired up about going for it because it's hard to knock those guys back. So I think there's a matchup of an offensive front versus a defensive front, and then do we think we have a good scheme to trick them? We can catch them for a reason to make us think that we have something where we can get them lined up a certain way. It could be based on formation, could be based on personnel, could be based on where the ball is located on the field, hash mark. Gives you good reasons to go. But you're seeing more coaches do it now, particularly in this league. I hadn't paid as much attention to some of the other games, but in this league, more guys, I don't know, somebody could do the research. There's probably more fourth downs attempted this last Saturday than maybe ever on one single Saturday in a Big 12 play.
Of a off-topic question, but what do you remember about Vernon Grant when he was here?
Vernon Grant, very enthusiastic, undersized, tough guy, competitive, great smile, great personality.
Baylor was able to force you guys into some turnovers last season. What have you kind of seen from them that creates that?
So I think it was 4. I went back and looked at that. 4 of the how many did he have against him last year? 7 turnovers? I think 4 of them he was being hit when he let go of the ball. And then 1 he threw off his back foot on a crossing route, overthrew a guy and hit the safety in the stomach. We certainly want to be more protective with the ball against them, and I'm not really concerned about it based on the number of turnovers that he had. He was being hit when he threw the ball.
What have you thought about your ball protection overall so far this season?
Well, we've been pretty good, but the other day Dominic let him take it away from him, and then we had one early in the season, and so. We're still to a point in the season where special teams yards, turnovers, and missed assignments play more of a factor than anything in the game. We'll grow out of that in 2 or 3 weeks when teams kind of get settled in. So those turnovers are a big factor in the games. We all know that, right? I mean, it's math, right? We get around 12 to 14 possessions each offense a game. If they get 3 more than I get 3 less, all of a sudden they get 17 and I get 11. Now their percentages go up to score points, mine go down. So very, very important part, and we need to do the best we can to take care of the football.
Do you worry, Mike, about, to that number, that turnover number a year ago, do you worry about a player like Spencer who is so self-critical and just perfectionist, self-described perfectionist, that he's just going to be he's going to press so much this week, knowing what happened last year? Even if a lot of it wasn't his fault.
No, I'm with you. But Spencer's highly intelligent, and he knows he gets hit and the ball goes a different direction. He can't control it. He's not going to tell you guys that because he's not going to push the blame on anybody